Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller, and as always, welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. So just a little housekeeping right at the beginning. You may notice our set looks a little bit different. We've dispensed with the desk for today, and our guests are seated at a social distance apart, I guess you might call it. So for the foreseeable future, this is how our set will be looking. You may have noticed we use a similar format for the TVJ town hall last night. All right, so in this segment of the program, we are going to be talking COVID. Well, we're talking COVID for the entire program, different aspects. In this section of the program, we're going to be talking about some of the legal implications, how it's being handled. Later on, we'll talk about the economic impact. But joining us in this segment of the program, we have attorneys at law, Anthony Williams and Clyde Williams. And you know, Jamaican state, they're going to say, wait, now, brother.
No. But I want to say the more handsome Williams here tonight.
Okay, I'll stay away from that.
Those who are more confident speak less about the handsomeness.
Okay, I'll just leave that right there, shall I? No, gentlemen, of course, the whole discussion has become even more impactful and significant in light of the news reported earlier this afternoon that Jamaica has now recorded its first death from COVID-19. Against that background, when we're talking about how it's being handled legally using the various bits of legislation, the orders and so on, let me ask this, Mr. Williams first, Anthony Williams, does this change anything for you?
Well, it doesn't change anything in the sense that we have important pieces of legislation. And one of the legislation that we need to speak about is the Public Health Act. And that act makes it very clear, very, very lucid, that the minister has certain powers to ensure that public health and public safety is protected. And so under the act, it specifically states that they can order the closure of schools, they can make orders in relation to public spaces being confined to a certain number, and it is very obvious in hindsight that the legislator had those in mind. So it is for the protection of public safety. Now, once the minister has given that promulgation in terms of the number of persons that are to be in any public space. In this case, it is 20. I note from the wider Caribbean that in Trinidad and Tobago, they have imposed a number of 25. Now, once that is in place, then it gives the minister as well the power to make certain regulations to ensure that that regulation is adhered to. Therefore, any person under the Act who fails to comply with that figure of 20, then they're going to be in some hot water.
So if somebody have a funeral and want to have a setup the night before, you're saying the setup better be less than 20 people?
Yes. You see, we have to ensure that we think about the public safety. You see, the Public Health Act is about public safety. And one have to think about what is it that we're going to compromise. Is it the funeral or the safety of the general public? So when I listened to the Prime Minister, he correctly said, and if I should paraphrase him, a word to the effect, he said that it pains his heart for him to make that pronouncement to limit funerals and weddings and certain affairs to be 20. But we have to recognize that it is important that public safety comes first.
Let me bring in Clyde Williams at this point, and we have, for instance, some of the bullet points of some of the restrictions that the Prime Minister had announced, all essential work to be done from home, hospital visits reduced to once per day, one visitor at a time, outpatient clinics scaled down, as you mentioned, no public gathering of over 20, markets from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., funerals only close family members, churches being encouraged, small groups, again, not more than 20, bars, nightclubs, other areas of entertainment ordered closed, and schools as well closed for 14 days. Clyde Williams, for you, does the death change anything?
Yes, it must change it because there is a grieving family tonight, and
it brings a greater urgency. I'm already urgent about it, but it brings greater urgency. The steps taken by the government so far in relation to the regulation, the order, are reasonable steps. My own view is that I would be a lot more aggressive at this stage of the life cycle of the virus in Jamaica. So my own position would be a curfew, a national curfew, from 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. to 5 o'clock in the morning.
Tell me what you mean by curfew.
A curfew. You have to be in your home after a certain hour. Whether it's 8 o'clock we decide or 9 o'clock, and you stay in your home or wherever you are until 5 a.m. in the next morning.
Isn't that a bit drastic?
No, I don't think so. I say this because, one, it's a highly contagious infectious disease. In fact, some of the doctors have said that I've listened to internationally, I've never seen something more infectious as one. Two, there is a gap between the confirmed cases and actual cases. Three, asymptomatic spread is very significant, as we are understanding, as in no symptoms, but you're spreading it. And five, or whatever number I'm at, the question of the virus living in your body for several weeks after after infection. When you're faced with that situation where we have had 4 months of experience and data from other countries, the virus starts slowly and then it hits an exponential updrive in every single country it has been in. It moves from small numbers to large numbers in a matter of weeks, days, sometime. So my own view is that Jamaicans have shown that we are not the people to give up our social gatherings just so. We don't care much for rules and regulations and orders. We don't care, not all of us, but too many of us don't care for, making sure the community is okay, sacrificing your own personal things. So I think the government need to help Jamaicans to achieve social distance by imposing a curfew. Lots of countries have imposed curfews, but the curfew cannot be imposed unless we have a state of emergency.
I beg to differ from my esteemed colleague. And I say differ because the curfew is a drastic order. And if you look at the analysis between what is happening in Italy and China and Spain, these countries are experiencing an exponential surge in the virus. Spain, Italy, China, they have basically ordered a lockdown. There's a larger population. The rate of increase of the virus spreading amongst the population is very, very high.
Yeah, Europe is the epicenter.
And Europe is the epicenter. And it's different from Jamaica. So I do not share the views that my esteemed colleague is saying that a curfew is very drastic and it is not needed for Jamaica at this moment. What the government is doing is trying to ensure that public health is restored. And if you notice, they're doing it in increments. At 5 days, they were going to 14 days. The government, through the Prime Minister, says that he's going to review it in another time. So, yes, it can affect the nation, but not at the rapid rate it is experiencing in China and Italy.
Yeah. May I just quickly wade in? When was the virus first in Jamaica? 10 days?
March 9, I think.
Okay, that's about 10 days?
Yeah.
In every country, it starts out like we're at the base of the curve. We're at the base of the curve, and the curve tends to be very steep. And then it plateaus and it comes down. Just today, I was listening to the scientists and medical scientists from the World Health Organization warning about how steep that initial thing is.
Yeah,
and
but
let me just finish, please. Let me finish, please. And the thing relates to the life cycle of the virus in the community. It has just come here. So here is what. The countries that have gone hard at the beginning are doing a lot better than those who have increased the pace as they go along. I don't believe we should do that. I believe we should go hard at the beginning, arrest it, and then have a small, gentle climb down as required. If we try to go hard in middle, by then it's going to be too late. So my own view is we're not closing the economy, we're not closing the country, whether it's 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Now, in the normal scheme of things, school is out now, and most persons will end work at a certain time. What we need to avoid is the public gatherings. I pass around in Jamaica, people are not going to take it on unless we have that kind of ramping up with soldiers and police on the road with town criers saying, go inside, come off the roads. Have to do it for a week or so to get people to understand. I passed some people today, everybody kissing and hugging up and so on.
Hold that thought for me. Let's go to break. We'll come back. Remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. We're talking about how to handle the COVID-19 disease in Jamaica. Stay tuned. We're back in